Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. Robin and I are thrilled week after week to present to you an engaging conversation with amazing women from around the world who do important work with other women. These are women who lift up each other, and these are women who hold space and allow other women to help them too. This week, you are going to love the woman we're going to be talking with, and Robin is going to take a moment to introduce her. Take it away, Robin.
Wonderful. I am so excited to have Samantha Hartley on our program. I actually met Samantha not that long ago through Leadership Global, a women's organization that we both belong to. And this is very unique because Samantha is helping women who help women and women consultants. And so women, groups of women or individual women who are reaching out to try to expand their reach, she enables them to expand their reach. So very, very unique model and very unique program. And so Samantha, tell us a little bit about what you do and what just a short path of how you got into helping these women consultants.
Well, thanks for having me on. I work with women consultants, as you said. So they are very often leadership consultants, management consultants in general. They might be like fractional CMO, CFO kinds of roles. Some of them work with nonprofits, but a lot of them are working with, companies you've heard of, Meta, Google, Intuit. They're very large companies like that. And what they have in common, usually when they start working with me, is that they are experiencing the revenue roller coaster, which means they have times when they're very busy with working with clients, and then they have some valleys, times when they're not earning as much and they're struggling to find clients. And so those peaks and valleys, or as I call it, the revenue roller coaster, it's very stressful. And then some of the women who come to me don't have peaks and valleys at all. They are slammed with client work, but they have hit a ceiling as much as they can grow. So they might be at 200,000 or 400,000 a year, which sounds great. But if they have higher ambitions and they have no time for themselves or their families because they're working all the time to earn that, then something needs to change. And so I help women consultants in those situations to change the way they're working so that they have freedom-based businesses. So they are able to work with fewer clients, earn more per client, and enjoy their businesses more. I started working with them. I left the Coca-Cola company in a long time ago in 2000. I took a year off because I was so burnt out. And a lot of the issues that I experienced working for the Coca-Cola company myself are the issues that my clients experienced when they were in corporate situations. So a toxic work environment, no place for your creative ideas, just the usual misogyny and like working too many hours and companies that just want to own you. So I share that with my clients, but what is really the why that propels my interest in my work is that when they're as leadership consultants, or even as something like an IT consultant, when I talk with my clients, what they want to do is make things better for the people back in those companies, for the employees who are working in these companies. So even a fractional CFO will say, I want to make sure that those people get paid on time, or that the processes work better so that the accounting department doesn't have to stay until 10 p.m. And so I want to make things better for that person I was when I worked back in my company. And so the consultants that I work with, they are all working with companies to make things better for the people in them. And that's really what aligns my work with the work of my clients.
What you're talking about resonates for me. I'm a finance executive, been in the industry for 34 years. And when you talk about finance people working beyond 10 o'clock, that is normal, right?
Yeah.
It is normal in the industry, no matter how tech-enabled it is. Normally because there are multiple accounting rules, multiple countries, Not everything is set up in a way that it jives because US is not in an international standard. So you have to juggle multiple. So when it comes to those kind of inherent systemic dissonance in the way business is set up, because that is the norm, how can women seek your help and how are you able to help?
Well, the women I'm working with know the answers to your question. I mean, when I hear that, I think we accept that as you said, if it's the norm, then we as a society accept that as normal, and that schedule disrupts individuals, it disrupts families, it disrupts communities. Like that's not good for us as a world, as a planet. And that's a topic that I'm very interested in. So when women come to me and I'm like, what do you do? They'll say, oh, well, I help finance companies to normalize their hours. I mean, what's broken in that is the acceptance of it. What's broken are systems and processes. Like it doesn't have to be that way. So I will find someone who says, actually, I help people to do that, but she'll say, I don't have a steady stream of clients, or they don't want to pay me what I want to be paid, or I can't figure out how to work with them in ways that actually make change. And those are the things that I can help with. So, whether she's one person or a small firm, like a boutique firm is who I work with a lot of times, I'll help them to work differently. So for example, I had some IT consultants I worked with. They're a partnership, 2 women partners, and then like 5 or 6 people who work for them. And they were struggling because they were charging by the hour because that was the norm in the IT industry. And for example, they had one client out here where I am in the Massachusetts area who needed so much from them that the hourly rates were just adding up to tens of thousands of dollars a month, but it was frying their team, and her internal team, they couldn't plan their time because the clients were so haphazard. And so I said, here's how we need to do this. You need to tell the client, like you have a project plan, don't you? Tell the client, here's how we're going to work, and I'm going to assign people to work like this. Here's how we're going to bill it, but we're going to bill it at a flat rate over the course of a year when we're going to be doing this stuff. So it's not our hair's on fire every single month. It's like, here's what we're going to do. So we put together this schedule. It came out to $40,000 a month, basically, of her team's time. But then she knew how they were going to be allocated, and she could have other people who were going to be doing other jobs, or those same people could be allocated to other work, or they could find vacation time for them. And so they switched from being, and she was like, how are we going to sell that in? And I was like, here's the process you're going to talk them through. So I teach my clients also how to sell that in. So they went from being hourly with that particular client to selling in a $480,000 engagement to that same client, which made everybody happy because the client doesn't like lumpy expenses. They don't like it to be $50,000 one month and $20,000 another month and 40, and then all of that. That's not good for anybody's finance department. They don't want to see that. So these known expenses, and then it's known for my client, and they can finally schedule the work. And she didn't just do that with the one. The partners took it to them, and then they sold a $240,000 after that, and a string of 120s. So they were able to transition from this hourly billing to a flat rate.
This is really fascinating. What's popping up in my head is, what are some of the obstacles you run into for getting these women who come to you to wrap their heads around doing something differently? If order to, they themselves have to be willing to wrap their head around a new idea. Let's do something differently. How do you get them to wrap their head around something, this different thing, whatever it may be, that you're proposing to them?
I mean, you nailed the obstacle. Like, what are the obstacles to this? I'm like, it's between the 2 ears of my clients. Most companies, when you present something reasonable to them, if you can make a reasonable business argument to them, they'll be like, okay, but you have to make a reasonable business argument to them. But the obstacle is getting the consultant in front of me to say, oh, wow, that's really different. Oh, wow, that's a real risk. Oh, I don't think I can say that. 40,000? How am I going to say that with a straight face? So all of those things. I do a lot of work with them on their mindset. I'm very much a person who can convey my belief and my personal power. I can convey that to my client. So a lot of times I will say that same reasonable business argument. I will make that argument to them of like, this is wrong and broken the way it's being done. It's not working for you. If you want to have a different result, you have to take different actions. And it's hard and scary to take different actions. So I'm beside them when they're doing that. I've had clients call me before the big meeting for the pep talk, then go into the big meeting and then call me coming out of the big meeting. Oh my God, I can't believe they went for it, that kind of thing. But it really does require, I think, if you're going to make a change like that, to have a coach, to have somebody beside you who is doing that. And besides that, they're in community with me and my other clients. So I can say, listen, you're not the only one who's done this. If you want, we can bring in, another client and say, and show them, here's what she's doing. And I think enough people will hear somebody else has done it. It's broken and not working for me. Like at the end of the day, like, what am I risking? Like, why don't I just try this? And so I think the same courage that caused them to go out on their own and be consultants is the courage that helps them to do something different in their business and really step into this. I have had some people that I've worked with who they can really never kind of cross this river. And that's, I can't reach everyone. And some people, they just have beliefs that couldn't be overcome, I would say. But for the most part, most people, when they get into a conversation with me, I'm pretty persuasive about what is possible for them.
That is so interesting to hear. We are truly moving into a gig economy world, right? Employers are not hiring full time. They want project-based work. And more women are finding themselves doing the work in their niche, but they don't know to run a business. They don't know all of the moving pieces of running a consulting practice, but full-time employment is fading away and becoming gig employment. And the reality is women have other responsibilities. When a man goes home, it's very different. When a woman, before she goes home, before she goes to work, she has to attend to things. After she comes, she has kids, the home, caregiving, sometimes in-laws, sometimes parents, sometimes the spouse. When all of these burdens are on women and they have all these balls up in the air to juggle, what advice do you have for them in terms of getting their space organized and making sure that they have work around life? Because life around work is not going to work always.
Oh, I think designing your work to be so that it fits into your life is really important. I also think that consulting is like the ideal profession for women, because you can create a freedom-based lifestyle this way. You can decide how much you're going to work. You can decide who you want to work with. I am very bad at giving advice to women who work in companies, because a lot of times they'll explain some dilemma and I'll be like, well, you should quit. That's a terrible situation. And that's not necessarily good advice. When I first started being self-employed, I thought everyone should be self-employed. And I now realize it's not ideal for everyone. Like, we all have different risk tolerances. But for the women I work with, it's, they're creating, I have a client who came to me doing a $300,000 business, now has a $500,000 to $600,000 business, and we're growing. I mean, she's got unlimited potential. So I just love the freedom and possibility in self-employment. And if it's going to be a gig economy, I'm like, good, let's win it. Let's win this gig economy, because you can, like, women know how to handle multiple responsibilities. They know how to juggle 25 different things. They know how to move their focus from thing to thing. They can, keep the kids quiet in the background while they're doing the Zoom meeting. Like, they really are amazing. I think to me, the key is support systems and really prioritizing your own well-being within that support system. I don't have kids, so I'm not a good advisor there. But what I do have, even if I had children, what I have is an incredible partner. I have incredible resources around me, and I've always invested in making sure those, like, I was supported to be able to give my all at work. Back when I worked at corporate, I was single. I was divorced and in a new corporate environment. And I had like 12 people who worked with me to help me, not full time, obviously, but just to help me run my life. So I had pet sitters, I had landscapers and housekeepers. I just couldn't, and there was more. There was so much that I needed just to help me to run my own life while I was employed. And we have, I have a supportive partner who helps with a lot of those things, in addition to his own work. But I can't imagine doing it without some community, whether that's, neighbors, friends, church, or other, faith community. Like, there has to be that, or else we can't really function. And even virtual communities like the one in Robin and I met through, you just feel connected to people, and it helps you to not be like, isolated and I got to do all this alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really intrigued and loving everything you're saying. I want to go back to a comment you made during your intro where you said that these women that you work with, they really want to make life better for the employees in their organization. They want to have systems changes. That it rings near and dear to my heart, also Cass's heart. My kind of tagline is creating workplaces where people want to stay instead of wanting to leave. And to make those systemic changes, first of all, to realize this isn't just an individual issue. We can do a lot of work, between our ears, and I'm really heavy into that as well. But there are also systemic changes which need to take place. And what's kind of popping into my head is, how do these women make allies within the organization to be able to help bring these changes about? And this whole notion of women having allies, both female allies, which our program, Women Investing in Women, is all about, and also male allies. So how do you go about helping women, or what have you seen has been useful in women creating allies? And I guess, first of all, realizing there need to be some systemic changes in addition to individual changes, systemic changes, and how do we find the allies within an organization to make those changes, so we have, again, workplaces where people want to stay instead of wanting to leave.
Yeah. I mean, I love that idea. And I have seen, I was so skeptical and jaded coming out of corporate myself. And when I hear them talk about, a lot of my clients talk about what goes on in those organizations. I mean, the reason I know they're working until 10 at night, the reason I know that payroll is sometimes done by checks because the IT system failed them. The reason I know that the transportation system here doesn't always pay, doesn't account for people coming in to work part-time, or that I know that toxic workplaces cause people to work in silos, or to that bosses want people to show initiative and to speak up and offer ideas, but nobody in the company feels safe to do that because there's a middle manager that we want to call people back from break. But when they come back late, we don't have any tools for that conversation. So you just scold them, and that a lot of leadership is really parenting, but not even good parenting. It's kind of like military style parenting. all of that stuff that I know is partially because I experienced that myself, but I know that it continues to happen because my clients will talk to me about, when we're working on their marketing materials, it's like, what's the problem you're solving? And they'll tell me this stuff and I'll be like, I can't believe this crap is still going on. And yet it is. So what gives me hope is that's not every company. And from time to time, I'll hear about, those best places to work kinds of companies. And I'll think, this is amazing. I mean, it's really wonderful that the leadership is empowering employees to make independent decisions, and that people feel safe to do things, and they're doing job switching. They're switching roles at companies, which is, all of this super creative stuff. I have a client who teaches companies to have self-led teams, which when I first heard, I was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. So there's tons and tons of progressive ideas in the workplace. And I think two things. One is that these individual consultants and their small companies can go in and make these changes. And, the thought leaders among them are talking about this, so that when I first heard self-managed teams over here, I thought crazy. And then now I'm like, oh, and now I hear it in a lot of different places. And I just hope that the wave of these wonderful changes happening, that it catches on. We know that more women on boards makes for a more successful company. We know that more diversity in companies makes them more successful. There's like statistics and research around this. We know that when people are happier at their companies, they stay longer. They bring in their friends, so that the whole company culture changes. It becomes a wonderful place to work, and those companies thrive. So it feels to me like there's, the toxic, patriarchal companies are kind of eventually going to meet up against these ones who are doing things in more progressive ways. And I think the more we hear about them, the more people, the employees here right now, it seems like they don't have the power. But if enough of the employees say, I'm not going to work for a company like that, I don't need that, it's the money isn't worth it, then they can choose to work for the other kinds of companies. And this is where I think capitalism has the opportunity to heal itself, is by employees saying, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. And we're popularizing, like, a lot of the accounts that I'm following on social media are, anti-work is kind of an extreme name for them, but they're speaking out against abusive practices. And I'm just hoping that we can fuel the wave that will change the way things are.
It's amazing how time flies when we're having an interesting conversation. So before we run out of time, I want to make sure we give you an opportunity to share with our audience how they can get a hold of you. And as a closing thought, how can women truly step in and help other women? Because in the workplace, women are not always helpful to other women. My personal experience, being one of the very few women in a CFO role, it's always men who have stepped up and helped me and has facilitated my career growth, not women. And there's such a scarcity mentality. I have to claw my way to the top, and anybody on my way, I'm going to claw them out too. Literally, it has been shared with me. So what advice do you have as a closing thought for women to build a more nurturing, sustainable approach to helping each other? Because it's going to take all of us.
It totally is going to take all of us. I had the same experience. It was very divisive in my work experiences. It was everyone was threatened by everyone else. But a thing that I have noticed is that the younger generations don't have as much of that toxic baggage as we have. And I think that's our opportunity, is, first of all, for all of us who have been through that and don't want that to continue anymore, to reach out to other women with an open heart, which I think is perceptible when you reach out with an open heart, and connect and say, hey, I found this cool resource. I'd like to attend it with you. Or, hey, would you like to come to? Or, listen, can we meet for coffee sometime? Cross-departmental, reaching out to any colleagues, inviting someone to be, that you could be their mentor. All kinds of things like that, I think, are really possible. it's helped me to in my career, like in this whole time that I've been out on my own, it's really helped me. So I do think things are changing, and I think what we can do as women who have experienced the worst of this is to ensure that the next generations don't experience that they feel welcome and they feel guided and helped. And they're welcome. Anyone watching this of any age or generation is welcome to reach out to me. I'm Samantha Hartley on LinkedIn, and my website is samanthahartley.com, and my podcast is Profitable Joyful Consulting, which you can find on any of the podcasts.
Thank you so much, Samantha. This has been a very insightful conversation, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with the community. And to our audience out there, it's going to take every woman with an open heart and open mind and a willingness to collaborate authentically, to come together to change our own destiny, because it is only together we can go further for much longer and change the way we all show up in this world.